Another day, another guest. Josh Nelson of Sox Machine joins me to talk about Roch Cholowsky's weekend against the SEC in Texas here on the CHGO White Sox podcast. CHGO White Sox podcast. I'm your host, Sean Anderson, coming to you live from Studio West of our West Loop offices here in Chicago. I'm Sean Anderson. Alongside me, Chloe, our producer, and our guest, host of the Sox Machine podcast, Josh Nelson. You can read his profile that's up now at SoxMachine.com about Grady Emerson. The one that is about Roch Cholowsky will be posting soon. You'll hear most of his thoughts on Chilowski, but make sure you go support Josh, Jim, and James over at SoxMachine.com. Alliteration always helps.
It does.
It's confusing.
I love alliteration.
So go support the Triple J's over at Sox Machine. How was Texas?
Texas was a good time. Texas was warm, a lot warmer than Chicago, but quality baseball all weekend. I even got a rental car, drove up to Frisco, Texas. For those that know Texas at all, geography just north of Dallas and Arlington. Chatted with former major leaguer Rusty Greer, which I don't know if you knew this. Rusty Greer, in his 9 years of the major leagues, hit more home runs against the Chicago White Sox than any other team. I did not know that until I started talking to him, but had a great conversation with Rusty Greer about Grady Emerson, the top prep shortstop in this upcoming MLB draft. Got to watch Grady Emerson along with 12 other MLB teams that were in attendance at Rock Hill High School. So there must have been 20 people there, and like more than half was simply there to see Grady Emerson. But it was a very fun weekend, lots of baseball, but also very informative as well of what to expect come July.
Did you ask Rusty about his career against the White Sox, or did you just provide that unprompted, being like, oh, White Sox, I had a good time against them?
Yeah, you go on Baseball Reference, and Rusty Greer surprises you. Like, his career WAR is over 20 in 9 years. And he had some 100 RBI seasons, and he had that big catch in 1994 that preserved Kenny Rogers' perfect game. And then you look at his career splits, and it's like, Rusty, you crushed against the White Sox. And then he just chatted how much he loved hitting then the cell, but now right field. And it was just one of his favorite ballparks to hit in.
It's a real good career, too. It fell off like quickly after 2000.
Yeah, he was super Aaron Rowan. For those that remember Rusty Greer in the 90s and early 2000s, he threw his body around with reckless abandon, and he had spinal fusion.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's been a rough few years for Rusty since then, but now he's coaching high school baseball.
Yeah, there you go. We'll talk a little bit about Emerson later on in the program. The main reason you went to Texas was Roch Cholowsky. This weekend, 272 average, 3 for 11 in his at-bats, 357 on-base percentage. He had no strikeouts, no walks, but was hit twice, had a sac fly as well, and then had a double and a homer, making up those 2 of the 3 hits. What did you make of Cholowsky's weekend? I mean, it's only 11 at-bats, 14 plate appearances. What did you take away of those from those 14 plate appearances?
So prior to his last plate appearance against Mississippi State, which grabs all the highlights, right? It is the bottom of the 9th inning. It's the top of the 9th inning. Runner on first. UCLA is down 2. Mississippi State is one of the few undefeated teams in college baseball. And on the first pitch, everybody in the press box knew immediately that he annihilated that ball. And we were waiting all weekend. Everybody was waiting for anticipation to see the big Roch Cholowsky hit. And we hadn't seen it in the first 2 games, especially, and didn't see much in the third game offensively. But when that fly ball hit the upper deck and he tied the game, it's like, this is what we came here for. We wanted to see a big moment for Roch Cholowsky, and he provided it. Offensively, thankfully, being at the Texas Rangers Stadium, we do have StatCast data from Roch Cholowsky. And out of the 12 balls he put in play that weekend, his average exit velocity was 92.4 miles per hour with a metal bat. Obviously, you're going to lose some velocity with a wood bat. So that's not exactly a big number that impresses you like it would be if we were checking out MLB StatCast data. If Sam Antonacci right now in spring training has a 92 mile per hour exit velocity, that's a lot different narrative, Sean, because he's using a wood bat than Roch Cholowsky facing college pitching with a metal bat. And offensively, I think he was just pressing. In the game against Mississippi State, it was very Alexei Ramirez-like, White Sox fans. 5 plate appearances, 9 total pitches. And I revisit that at bat against Mississippi State, and the previous batter, Dean West, got hit by a pitch. And with Chilowski coming up, I felt like Mississippi State's pitching coach should have went out and said something like to calm the pitcher down, like, hey, let's take a deep breath here. Just so you know, Roch has been super aggressive, so don't throw anything on the first pitch for him to hit. That conversation never happened. First pitch is a center cutter at 89 miles per hour that he just absolutely crushes. So I'm sure Mississippi State has some regrets on how they handled that moment against Roch Cholowsky. So offensively, not super impressive, but defensively, and watching him play the shortstop position, Sean, in person, that's a much different experience than watching the Big Ten streams or watching on any of the television broadcasts. His attack angles are so good, and he's so well positioned. He knows where he needs to be within the infield, and college baseball still allows the shift. So that's a little bit different than the major leagues. He's not as athletic as Colson Montgomery, but because of his attack angles and just knowledge, he's always in the right spot. He's got a tremendous throwing arm. Every throw is perfect to first base. And it didn't matter if he was moving backwards or coming in on a slow chopper. Every throw was center to the first baseman. And I was just super impressed in what he did defensively. And UCLA coach John Savage, who has coached a former number 1 pick overall in Garrett Cole, so he's used to this. This is not new to him. Provided a great quote that a player that you feel their impact both offensively and defensively is a testament to their overall ability. And Texas A&M lost that game by 10. So UCLA won 11-1. Chilowski did not have a big game offensively. But all Texas A&M could talk about, especially their media, was, man, we could not get anything past Chilowski. He was such an impact defensively against the Aggies and really helped shut down their offense. So I think that's what Chilowski demonstrated, that he has a very high floor. Yeah, it would have been cool if he had the weekend that Will Gasparino did with 4 home runs. Then everybody would have gone insane. But overall, at least we got that big moment offensively from Roch, and now I have a better understanding just how great he is defensively.
Yeah, if he had first baseman power, this might be a completely different story. He might just be 1-1, like complete runaway. He already is in a way. Did you talk to Chilowski himself? Did you get to understand his makeup or at least his demeanor in any way?
So right now, UCLA is being very protective of Roch. So unless you are Flow TV and it's a nationally televised game and he hits that big home run, they're not really making him available to talk about draft stuff. And I think that also lends to where Chilowski's mindset is right now. He's not concerned about the MLB draft. He's not concerned about being selected first overall, nor the national accolades of being the Golden Spikes winner or winning the Dick Hauser Award, which is a Player of the Year award. He's really focused on trying to get this team back to Omaha. And UCLA really feels now, after 6 straight wins against ranked opponents, sweeping TCU and now beating these 3 SEC schools, that they feel destined and they feel like they have the team to go back to the College World Series. But this time, instead of losing to LSU and Arkansas, they want to be prepared to take on whoever the SEC has in Omaha. And Chilowski wants to win the national championship. And Sean, if UCLA wins the national championship this year, he's going to win the Golden Spikes Award. He's going to win the Dick Hauser Award, even though we give those awards out before the College World Series. He's going to have all the hardware, Gold Glove again, and then be selected first overall. Like, that's what he wants. He wants everything. And if he can accomplish everything, he'll be one of the best college baseball players in the last 25 years.
Yeah, and let's get to Corey's super chat here. Appreciate Corey for the $10 super chat. He mentions Keith Law's analysis of Roch in The Athletic, and Corey saying he came away with Dansby Swanson vibes, a comp I know that you brought up before. Troy Tulowitzki has been a comp for Chilowski before. Corey saying he hopes Roch is more of an MVP candidate than just a solid above-average shortstop. But at least with Law, what he said was Chilowski is consensus #1 prospect. He's the strongest 1-1 season candidate since Adley Rutschman in 2019, and he's steady and predictable. Might not be explosive, but that's the biggest thing that I took away from him is if you're drafting a player for 162 games, I would rather him be the same player every day, day in, day out, than these high ups and high downs. I look at Justin LeBron, and maybe it's not exactly 1-to-1. He seems to be a little bit more polished than this player, but he seems to be more akin to Tim Anderson, where it's just a ton of athleticism, but maybe not completely harnessed, where Chilowski seems like he's been setting himself up for this moment, maybe not just the Golden Spikes and getting to Omaha, et cetera, but just a baseball career.
Yeah, I think Swanson is a good comp. I would say that's the middle ground. The absolute floor would be like a Paul DeJong type of career where he surprises you and hits 30 home runs and plays a solid shortstop. But professional pitchers just completely bust up Roch Cholowsky in the inside corner, and he can't cover the inner half. And it really impacts what his overall offensive ability is. So what's Chilowski's ceiling? Well, if Chilowski plays this high a level of defense, and he does figure out and make an adjustment with his swing to be able to really hit pitches with authority on the inner half, every time I watch him, I get Carlos Correa vibes from Roch Cholowsky. So if you're a White Sox fan that wants somebody better than Dansby Swanson, give me a better comp than Swanson, I'd say Roch Cholowsky probably falls in between Dansby Swanson and the prime years of Carlos Correa, which injuries really sapped some amazing seasons that Correa was on pace for. But it's the power, it's how he uses his lower half offensively, and that elite defense that Chilowski has that I think should get White Sox fans really excited about, that I think he could be a routine 3-WAR player. And Sean, I haven't looked at it. When was the last time we saw a 3-WAR position player? Luis Robert
Colson Montgomery.
In 2023. I mean, Montgomery was definitely getting up there,
he
right?
Was 3.3.
3.3. Okay.
So it was absurd. Since CHGO started, the only players that have put up a higher WAR is Robert in 2023, and then I think Abreu in 2022.
Yeah, so is Abreu the last player that was that consistent for the White Sox with 3-WAR? Yeah, so the White Sox don't have a lot of those types of players. So don't be dismayed about the whole Dansby Swanson comps. I think there's a little bit more power, a little bit more offensive ability from Chilowski than Swanson, but Swanson is so dependable and he's so good with the glove that I think that's more the middle ground of what Chilowski will be able to provide in the future.
For a franchise that has never had a $100 million player, Swanson signed a $185 million contract.
A lot of money.
It's a decent player. Again, I'm not upset with Dansby Swanson 1-1 because, again, the other options could possibly fall off even more embarrassingly. Let's talk a little bit about the issues that you mentioned against inside velocity. Do you think that could be, maybe shown, is that a weakness he can get over in Big Ten pitching, or is that going to be something that even, he'll have to prove outside of college, that, once he gets to minor league baseball, he'll have to prove that he can hit, inside fastballs.
Yeah, Ryan Fuller will have to make an adjustment with him. But, Sean, it's the same thing that we're talking about watching spring training with Munetaka Murakami. Munetaka had one particular swing in Japan because it worked in Japan. That swing's not going to work in Major League Baseball because he's going to be attacked more up in the zone than having to face split fingers and sinkers in the bottom part of the strike zone. So even though Munetaka had this great track record in Japan hitting for power, he's having to make swing adjustments. Every professional hitter has to make adjustments because it seems like every 2 years, professional pitchers are finding new tricks. We didn't know what the kick change was until recently. Like, they're coming up with new ways to get hitters out, so hitters have to be flexible. The problem with Chilowski's swing, if you try to take him now and say, oh, he can go directly into the major leagues, his swing is so conducive against college pitching, and college pitchers right now are trying to stay away from him. So it's a lot of changeups. It's a lot of sliders towards the outside corner. So when Chilowski swings, you'll see his hands come over the heart of the plate sometimes because he's trying to get the barrel in the outside corner and really drive those pitches. When pitchers are trying to attack him inside, it's rare that they accomplish that goal. more times than not, they're afraid because they're going to hit him in the arm. And as you mentioned, he got hit twice this weekend. He's picking up quite a bit of hit by pitches. He might get to 20 this year with the lack of quality of college pitching. Very Jose Abreu like doesn't bother him getting hit in the upper arm whatsoever. But come professional baseball, professional pitchers can hit the inside corner. So what adjustment does Chilowski need to make with his hands? Because he's got a very Eloy Jimenez load up. Mm-hmm. He twists his foot in, lifts his leg up, really focus on trying to drive from the back hip and Chilowski's swing for his power. But he's got to learn to come and bring his hands in closer to his body and try to get the barrel out in front of the plate to pull those inside pitches to left field. He doesn't see that pitch a lot. Big Ten pitching, if you're a Big Ten pitcher, I am so sorry. I'm not trying to be offensive, is mediocre at best. He is going to crush against Big Ten pitching. So really watch his numbers skyrocket. So it's not until he gets into the White Sox system, until he's wearing a Winston-Salem dash or a Birmingham Barons uniform, that he starts seeing the type of pitching he's going to see in the major leagues.
We'll talk about ETA in a second. We'll also talk about Grady Emerson, who you also saw in Justin LeBron, possibilities of them possibly usurping Chilowski. The other thing I wanted to bring up was, thinking back on college players that the White Sox drafted from California. Andrew Vaughn really never hit with the White Sox. Suddenly he goes to Milwaukee. Now seems like a consummate first baseman. Maybe that adjustment will happen at some point for Chilowski, but it's a long journey for baseball players. So, hopefully they can figure it out. We'll take a break here on the CHGO White Sox podcast and talk more about Roch Cholowsky. What if you could have reliable and intelligent Wi-Fi? And what if you could keep that reliable and intelligent Wi-Fi at the same price for 5 years? That's the Xfinity 5-year price guarantee. Imagine Wi-Fi that makes everything in your home work together, that finds and fixes problems before you even notice them, like a super intelligent Wi-Fi that has a sixth sense, and that lets you stream the game even when your whole family's online. All your devices working in perfect harmony for 5 whole years. That is the best part. Also, on top of it, there's no annual contracts, no hidden fees, and Xfinity's best equipment is included. Take it from me, a lot can change in 5 years. You can go from the top of the AL Central all the way to the bottom, set records for the worst season, but there's hope now in 2026. But your Wi-Fi, that should stay reliable, and the price should stay put. Lock in your price today and unlock the possibilities with Xfinity. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Xfinity, imagine that. Select plans only. Restrictions apply. We also want to let you know about our friends over at Four Seasons. For all the right reasons, call 866-4SEASONS. Is your home's heating up for the challenge? If not, call our friends over at Four Seasons. Now is the time to schedule your Four Seasons furnace tune-up. And if you're thinking about a whole home generator, they have you covered. At Four Seasons, they guarantee same-day installation for all your heating, cooling, plumbing, electrical, and generator needs with no extra charges for nights, weekends, or holidays. And you can save up to $4,000 on furnace and comfort systems with Four Seasons heating, air conditioning, plumbing, sewer, and electric. Furnaces start at $39 a month. Furnace AC combos at $57 a month. Call today and save $50 from your trusted local experts. Four Seasons, your trusted local experts for heating, air conditioning, plumbing, sewer, and electric. They've been serving Chicagoland for over 50 years. Call your friends over at Four Seasons that, again, will not charge you extra on nights, weekends, or holidays. They'll help with heating, cooling, plumbing, electrical, generator, and sewer needs. Visit fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for all their special offers and money-saving coupons. That's fourseasonsheatingcooling.com. Welcome back to the CHGO White Sox podcast. We have Josh Nelson, the host of the Sox Machine podcast, with us talking about Roch Cholowsky. We're going to be taking the temp with our friends over at Four Seasons. For all the right reasons, call our friends over at Four Seasons. Again, your trusted local experts for heating, air conditioning, plumbing, sewer, and electric are Four Seasons. They've been serving Chicagoland for over 50 years. Visit fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for all their special offers and money-saving coupons. You mentioned ETA. You mentioned Roch Cholowsky may not be able to just breeze through the minor leagues. I think that he will likely be a top 20 prospect once drafted. But again, you mentioned it might not be, him making the opening day roster come 2027. Do you think he'd start in Birmingham post-draft? Do you think that we'd at least see him play, unlike, Billy Carlson, post-2025 draft? What do you think his journey at least looks like post-July?
Well, let's say if UCLA does win the national championship, White Sox may want to give Chilowski a couple weeks to rest, because that would be a lot of baseball back-to-back. And if they do take him first overall in July, maybe he joins Winston-Salem if they're doing well as far as postseason run, to get his feet wet, or maybe they feel like, yeah, you could take on Double-A pitching. Let's see what you can do. If the Barons are going to be in the postseason, here you go, Birmingham. Here's Roch Cholowsky for a month. After that, I think I would give him 400 plate appearances in the minor leagues so he can just be more accustomed to facing fastball velocity greater than 95. Again, he's just not seen a lot of those pitches. Like, he saw 34 pitches this weekend, and I think maybe 5 were 95 or greater. And from right-handers in Major League Baseball, that's now average. So he's not seeing a lot of average fastball velocity. So if you give him 400 plate appearances in the minor leagues to get accustomed to the spin, to get accustomed to the velocity, that puts him in mid-August in 2027. And let's say some injuries happen, or God forbid, the Chicago White Sox are good and they need a late season boost, then maybe you do give Chilowski that cup of coffee, because then you're within the time limit where he can still have his rookie eligibility in 2028. So I think late 2027 is a possibility if he absolutely crushes minor league baseball. But I would still give him 400 plate appearances. Do not do what you did before Chicago White Sox with Andrew Vaughn and have him only have 120 minor league plate appearances, and then have him play a completely different position that he's never played before. Don't do that with Roch Cholowsky. I would give him some time to get accustomed to better velocity and better spin.
Hey, it was 55 games for Vaughn in 2019 before making his debut with the White Sox in 2021. They gave him 245 plate appearances. It wasn't enough.
No, it wasn't.
But again, hey, at least with Chilowski, they won't move him to left field. You think?
Yeah, they will not do that.
That seems to be the discussion. Obviously, is if you're taking Chilowski, where are all these guys going to play? It's not truly an issue. I think the biggest thing, at least for the White Sox, is depending or seeing where Colson Montgomery ends up after this year. If he plays above average defense and hits 30 home runs,
you're not moving him.
Well, that's what, right?
You're not moving him off short. So then Chilowski did play third base his freshman year at UCLA, and I think he could be a good third baseman. Maybe Colson decides, if he has back issues because he's bending over all the time at short, maybe you can move Colson over to third, and then Chilowski could be your shortstop. This isn't a problem. We're calling it a puzzle, because obviously with Billy Carlson, if Billy Carlson starts to hit really well, that's another reason to get excited. I don't know about you, Sean, but if you have 3+ shortstops playing third, short, and second base, the first time in our lifetime we're going to see a good infield defense from the White Sox. That's not a problem. It's just a puzzle that's up to Will Venable and Chris Getz to figure out. But let's see what happens this year with Colson Montgomery defensively. And let's see if the White Sox do take Roch Cholowsky first overall in July. Yeah,
and it depends on Bonnemer, obviously building on what he just did last year.
Can't forget about Caleb Bonnemer too. Yeah,
and Carlson hitting too. That's a large piece of it as well. I mean, he could just be a Jacob Gonzalez with the bat. Maybe obviously better defensively at shortstop, and maybe he'll make a major league debut at some point. But I always it seems like Carlson could be a trade piece, but again, good problem to have.
This is new for us. We're talking about
it's an embarrassment of riches.
Depth. This is rare for the White Sox on infield. This is I think this is the reason in 2026 White Sox fans should get excited, is you can see some real infield depth.
Well, and then now Russell Dorsey's saying that Sam Antonacci is going to be a major leaguer for 12 to 15 years, or scouts telling Russell Dorsey that Sam Antonacci is going to be a major leaguer for 12 to 15 years.
And our James Fegan is everyone needs to calm down. He's going to Charlotte. Chase Mydroth will still be the opening day second baseman, but injuries happen, and I'm sure we'll see Antonacci at some point.
If they're, just to get into that discussion real quick, if you had to pick one that will be a White Sox or have the best White Sox career, Mydroth, Baldwin, or Antonacci? I asked this to Malachi yesterday.
I guess I'd still go with Mydroth, because I think Mydroth's going to get the most playing time out of those three this year. And then we'll see. If Antonacci goes to Charlotte and he does well, okay. But if Caleb Bonnemer out-hits Antonacci, our focus pivots. And it's Caleb Bonnemer is their best prospect. Let's get ready for Caleb Bonnemer. Antonacci, who?
Oh,
that guy, forget about him. Let's bring in Bonnemer.
Baldwin, not Bonnemer. Bonnemer,
right.
Yeah.
But
if
Baldwin's
Bonnemer,
going to be out in the outfield.
Right.
And he was so bad defensively, and he was just lost. I thought he was playing out of position, but Will Venable thinks that he's better in the outfield than the infield, which is kind of a scary thought for me. We'll see how Baldwin does in center field. Baldwin's sneaky, though. He snuck up on us on power last year, so I'd still go chase my draws because of playing time. So my draw, Baldwin, Antonacci in that order.
Yeah, and Antonacci's been fun. It's, again, a good problem to have right now with the White Sox. All right, let's go to Grady Emerson, who you also mentioned you saw talk to Rusty Greer, former major leaguer, about his player Grady Emerson. Emerson and LeBron, could either of these players usurp Chilowski for that 1-1 spot?
From a White Sox perspective, I give it like a 10% chance. The things that we are hearing from White Sox camp, like I am 90% confident it's going to be Roch Cholowsky #1 right now. The only reason why it would be someone like Grady Emerson is if Grady Emerson was willing to take a deal for like $8 million instead of $9.25 million, for example, which is the record held by Paul Skeens for the most money as a #1 pick. What could the White Sox do with $1.25 million in the second, third, and fourth round? Probably a lot. So that would be the only reason why, is because of the draft shenanigans coming to signing bonus, and that the White Sox have a particular target at pick 41 that they really want. But I don't think that's going to happen because Chris Getz is an awful poker player. And he is so giddy about the #1 pick that every time he talks about it, he gets a little squirmy and he laughs a little bit. I think we all know he's excited to see Roch be announced #1 overall.
Yes, and like gleaming with joy that they got the #1 overall pick. Way more excited than I was. Like I felt a sigh of relief. He seems to have pure joy.
He's ready to go.
I think the thing that he mentioned, this offseason was, they try to get 2 WAR players. If you're talking about Chilowski is already a possible 3 WAR player, just imagine he could be a 5 WAR player. It seems to be, again, too hard of an opportunity to pass down. Maybe, again, Emerson cuts a deal, but he'd also have to make himself a little bit more tantalizing, right? Like, I mean, you talk about, the current athleticism. He seems to be the best athlete out there, but might not be facing, I think Keith Law mentioned, top level breaking stuff. Like, there are a decent amount of questions still with Grady Emerson.
Yeah, the thing is, though, if you polled all the major league teams, I don't think it's unanimous that Roch Cholowsky is the #1 prospect. I do think there are some Major League Baseball teams, because of age, would take Grady Emerson over Roch Cholowsky because they know where Chilowski was at age 18 and they know where Emerson is at 18. Emerson's better at 18 than Chilowski was. Chilowski's 20. They know how good he's at 20. They don't know, obviously, because Emerson's not 20 years old. But if you have any confidence in your player development ability with position players, do you think that Emerson facing A ball and high A, that at 20 years old, he's going to be further along in his development and becoming a major leaguer than Chilowski is? So some teams really buy into the whole age model. This is why Eli Willits was drafted first overall last year, because Eli was 17 years old, and the Nationals now use an age model. Tampa Bay uses an age model. So if the Rays had the #1 pick, White Sox fans would be like, oh, they're going to take Roch Cholowsky. I don't think so. They would be, I think, the team that cuts a deal at pick #1 and to take Grady Emerson, and then Chilowski would have fell to the White Sox at pick #2. So I still think the White Sox would have gotten Chilowski no matter what in this draft if those picks went vice versa in the lottery. So right now, I do think it would be Chilowski 1, Emerson 2 to Tampa Bay. And then the real question is, does Minnesota take someone like Jackson Flora because they really struggle in developing starting pitching? And that is a guy with tremendous velocity and tremendous stuff. Or they take the super athletic shortstop and Justin LeBron. That's, I think, where the debate starts in the MLB draft.
Yeah, I mean, if this is a team that's drafted Buxton, Royce Lewis, it seems like Justin LeBron seems like their type of player.
Yeah, it does feel like Justin LeBron is very Minnesota Twins. Yes.
Which hey, you just got to hope that, again, Cholowski's floor is just that much higher.
What a great, I didn't think about that because I have heard from Tuscaloosa that Justin LeBron has his sights on really challenging Roch Cholowsky this year. Mm-hmm. And he wants to share that spotlight. And man, if that came to fruition, if this continued with Chilowski and LeBron into the American League Central, Oh, that would be good. That would be good. I didn't thought about that before, Sean. That's great.
It's good and it's also terrible because again, like, it's nice that the White Sox won the draft lottery, but again, him going to Minnesota just makes it a lot more, again, magnifying glass every single, 12 or 13 times they play each other every single year. We're just going to have that thought of, did the White Sox make a mistake taking Chilowski? Again, it just seems
that
like
will always happen.
Right.
But if they both perform well,
well,
I think everyone should be happy.
And again, like the history of number 1 overall picks, it's not always a slam dunk. So
Right.
if you are able to get somebody that does have a floor like even a Rusty Greer that you could get,
20
a 20 WAR,
yeah.
like in White Sox history, you're not typically drafting 20 WAR players.
No, they are not.
So it seems like a gift that you'd even have a player with that low of a floor. All right, let's take a break here on the CHGO White Sox podcast. We'll talk about White Sox payroll and the 2026 team in just a second with Josh Nelson of the Sox Machine podcast. Can you believe we're 3 months into 2026? We have been using our friends over at Huel to fuel us this year. If you are in a pinch, maybe you forgot your lunch at home and need a quick meal, Fuel has been a lifesaver for me. Maybe you set a resolution for the beginning of the year that you want to bulk up. These are great for hitting those protein macros. Huel is a perfect solution for high protein routine support, busy days, habit building, convenience, and control this year. You get 35 grams of protein, 27 essential vitamins and minerals. There's no artificial sweeteners or colors or flavors. It's gluten-free. It's under $5 per meal, and it's a complete meal that you can truly grab and go. And there's also the powder. So if you do love the Huel protein drink that's already ready, but you want a little bit more customization, you could check out the powder if you want, something more built, like thicker, blended, or more filling, or if you want, maybe less protein. I don't know. You can control your drink. Head over to Huel.com/White Sox 15 to get 15% off online with our offer, White Sox 15, for new customers only. Thank you to Huel for partnering and supporting our show. That's at Huel.com/White Sox 15. If you're busy, Huel, this is a game changer. We also want to let you know about our friends over at Ray CDJR. Head over for their great auto show sales event heading on all month long. Head into Ray, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram to score a great deal at the auto show sales event. Head into Ray CDJR on Route 12 today to choose from their huge inventory of new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram vehicles. And right now, get 0% financing for 72 months on new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram models. Plus, shop over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. With a friendly team of brand experts, the team at Ray CDJR is here to help you during each step of your car shopping journey. Plus, since they prioritize affordability, you won't overpay for your next vehicle. With Ray's Price Promise, you could shop confidently with no hidden fees and no add-ons. Ray's Price Promise means that the price you see is the price you pay. So head over to Ray CDJR. They're the only team we recommend. Don't miss out on the auto show sales event for huge savings on new models. For more information, visit Ray CDJR today on Route 12 in Fox Lake or online at raycdjr.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Welcome back to the CHGO White Sox podcast. Last 15 minutes here as Josh Nelson of the Sox Machine podcast joins us. Again, make sure you support Jim, Josh, and James as they do great work over at the Sox at SoxMachine.com. You were joining me you joined me in November when we talked about payroll.
Yeah.
I want to give you your flowers here. You predicted 85 million. I think right now, if you move the taxes and stuff, it's like 83 million, but you pretty much nailed it. So congratulations on that. Do you think the 83, 85 million was spent in the right way?
Oh, that's a good question. And I had some inside information with that prediction. So I'm sorry. I had to fool you a little bit, Sean.
Well, it was good information at least.
It was reliable information. Yes. Prior to the Luis Robert trade, I don't know. But now, I wasn't expecting them to get Munetaka. And quite frankly, Josh Barfield, the assistant general manager during the spring training media session, shared even the same sentiment. That deal came together in 3 days. The White Sox made their offer, didn't think it had much of a chance. 2 days later, they get a call. Hey, do you want to jump on a Zoom with Mooney? Sure. Realize they're the high bidder. Sure, we'll take them. So to be able to win that sweepstakes and a little bit of luck, I think Munetaka is going to have a very good season for the White Sox. I am someone that thinks that Mooney's going to hit 35 home runs for the White Sox this year, and he'll address the strikeout rate. And I think a lot of teams are going to have regret being like, actually, we could have used Mooney. in our lineup in our contending season.
Right. I mean, Jordan Blumfield, who does the oopsie projections for Fangraphs, predicted that he'd hit 35 homers but lead Major League Baseball in strikeouts. And I still feel like if he's got 1 year left at 17 million, teams might be like, well, he hit 35 homers. Like we could roll that, roll the dice for 17 million.
But the White Sox don't have a surefire first baseman right now, and they could still use somebody that hits 35 homers. So I think the White Sox are going to keep Mooney the next 2 seasons. But then, they add Eric Fetty at the end. That helps with depth. Anthony Kay, we'll see on the transition. Sean Newcomb will help out in the bullpen. Sir Anthony Dominguez might have been an overspend, but man, the thing that we've heard in the winter meetings in Orlando this year, Sean, was pitching is getting so expensive. And that's why I wonder this upcoming MLB draft, if it really truly starts the run of pitchers, because next year's draft, college pitching. The sophomores are excellent. And it's getting to the point where you have to develop your own bullpen. You have to develop your starters. But now that with Sir Anthony Dominguez and Sean Newcomb in the bullpen, and if Jordan Leisure can hold steady, and you got Grant Taylor, and now you traded for Jordan Hicks, and in that trade with Boston, taking on Hicks and taking that cash because you traded Luis Robert, you also get David Sandlin. I'm starting to like this offseason a lot more. And I was one in January. It's like, please don't trade Luis Robert. I want to see what this looks like with Robert, Montgomery, and Mooney. Can they click together? And if Robert can bounce back to form, then what could the White Sox be in 2026? As we speak today, Luis Robert has yet to play a spring training game for the Mets. And if that happened with the White Sox, we are having a much different conversation, being like, what is going on with Luis Robert? But now we don't have to worry about that anymore. So I think in the end, they ended up landing the plane. Yes, they could have spent more money and they could have gotten better free agents. We'll see how the starting pitching holds up. But the way that Tanner McDougal is throwing the ball, and Sean, if Hagen Smith has a bounce back year and Noah Schultz figures out his arsenal, now that he's 6'11", he grew another inch, you have help on the starting rotation coming. And if Shane Smith can hold his own, and we know that Davis Martin has been dependable, and let's see in another year with Sean Burke and maybe Jonathan Cannon can figure something out. The White Sox can piecemeal together a starting rotation, and you don't have to squint too hard to see that, hey, this team could be competitive. I like the infield. The starting pitching is better than we expected, and now they have high velocity in the bullpen. It's the outfield that's a problem.
Right. Yeah. And hey, maybe Acuna could turn into something. It does seem like, he's a little bit more quieter in his back foot, staying lower to the ground and at least driving the ball a little bit more. Maybe Benny and Hayes, that platoon can work out to be something.
I think Hayes is going to end up playing a lot more than we expect.
Yeah, and likely in right field, right? I mean, he ends up signing here for likely playing time for only a year to try to hit the free agent market again.
Benintendi can stay healthy if that Achilles doesn't bark. What are we looking at? Benintendi, Acuna, Hayes, with Baldwin being your fourth outfielder?
Yeah, and then, you have Pereira as a possibility.
But Pereira's got an oblique issue. Right.
He's day-to-day.
Jarred Kelenic might be bad.
So, yesterday there were 16 players with a 900-plus OPS in spring training, and if Kelnick's the one guy that's around 400.
He's struggling.
I know that it's always about, how hard he hits the ball, but he is also a guy that just never elevates the ball. So it just seems like the same old Jarred Kelenic that, we've seen before. I think, though, what you threw out there, Benny, Acuna, Hayes, Baldwin, that does seem to be the first four. I don't know where else they would likely. I'm thinking, Tristan Peters. Does he interest you?
No,
Derek Hill probably.
You come to the trade deadline, the White Sox are not in contention. They probably trade Austin Hayes, right? Mm-hmm. And then in that moment, where is Brady Montgomery? If Montgomery is holding his own in AA or AAA and the White Sox feel confident, that's probably the swap in August, is that Austin Hayes gets traded at the deadline and Brady Montgomery comes up and he gets his opportunity to prove himself in the majors. And it's like, great, we have one guy we're excited about in the outfield, but moving forward, this is an area that definitely needs to be addressed by the White Sox. They got to figure out the outfield.
Yeah, and I think, hopefully if Antonacci continues to perform well, one of Acuna and Maedroth performs well, someone could turn into a trade piece that, turns into an outfielder. You have such depth of infielders that one of them could hopefully maybe move to the outfield or be traded for an outfielder. So with the payroll, do you think it's going to go up at all next year? Do you think that it's just kind of too early to tell with the current state of the lockout, the MLBPA and the MLB? And we saw a lot of short deals this offseason. It doesn't seem like it's going to be a fruitful year next year. What do you think about payroll for next year, especially with CHSN looming over them?
Yeah, that's a good question. The Minnesota Twins, their owner, said that they only have 50,000 digital subscriptions, which, dear Lord, only 50,000 for a professional sports team. I don't care what level you are. That is not sustainable. Like, are the Minnesota Twins making $20 million with their local TV deal, Sean? If they are, the Dodgers are making $320 million. So when people say that the Twins can spend the same money the Dodgers get, no, they can't. The Dodgers will be making at least $300 million on top of all the games that they sell out and all the money that they make. And we only have one team in Major League Baseball that shares its financial information. That's the Atlanta Braves. And the Atlanta Braves make about $550 million a year in baseball revenue, and they spend about $500 million for their team, for everything: salaries, minor leagues, travel, insurance, expenses, all that stuff. So it takes a lot of money to run a major league team. So for the White Sox, it's how many fans come to games in 2026. And are they aggressive before the lockout? Remember that? The last CBA negotiations? Holy cow. It was like the NBA free agency. It was so crazy for like a 72-hour span before the deadline because guys were signing deals. And the White Sox made one move before the deadline, and that was signing Lurie Garcia to a 3-year contract. And then it was wait and see what the new rules will be. So I think it's hard to predict where the White Sox payroll will be in 2027 until the new CBA. But before the owners can even have a conversation and proposing a salary cap, they really need to figure out this local TV issue because it's impacting now half the league in Major League Baseball. And there's such a huge revenue disparity that so many owners are going to group together and go up against the Dodgers, Yankees, and Mets and ask them, beg them, can we all combine our local TV deals, sell it to one provider, and split the money evenly like the NFL does? That's a terrible deal for the Dodgers. They could lose maybe $200 million a year in that type of deal. Are they willing to do that to help out everyone in Major League Baseball? I think that's the first fight is between the owners before the owners and players fight over a salary cap.
Yeah, when Major League Baseball sold BAMTech to ESPN or whatever, like that $30 million influx was great. Yeah, like that was awesome.
Well, if you think about, like, my idea is like for $4.5 billion a season, you get every regular season local broadcast for any provider, Netflix or ESPN, hypothetically. Mm-hmm. That means every team gets $150 million. That helps out tremendously, like the Pirates and the Twins and even the White Sox. Now you could talk about a salary cap because now you could theoretically come up with a realistic salary floor. But the Dodgers, Yankees, and Mets lose so much money out of that they would have to negotiate about revenue sharing, that they don't have to continue sending money to the Athletics and Marlins. So they are in the black and not in the red. So that's where the first fight's going to be.
And they also want to expand at some point. So it's
I know,
it's a complete mess.
My eyes. That's another thing that needs to be talked about. Yeah.
Woohoo. All right. Before we get you out of here, prediction for the 2026 Sox. I think the over-under is at 68.5.
Yeah, I'm taking the over for the White Sox. James mentioned that this could feel like 2019. Mm-hmm. And the White Sox were close to 500 on 4th of July. The number that I have in my head right now is 75-87. And I think I'm going to stick with that. So I'm taking the over. I think 75 wins is a great target. That's a big step forward. And it does make the conversations going the offseason a lot more interesting for everyone involved, the White Sox, us, and the media, of what to expect in 2027. White Sox fans, they're excited now, but they can be hopeful depending on how 2026 goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially if just certain players perform well. You talked about overpaying for Sir Anthony Dominguez, but if that allows Grant Taylor to possibly show 100 innings, that could be huge for the White Sox future. If Montgomery hits 35 homers, if Munetaka shows off elite
if you get
power.
60 homers between Montgomery and Murakami, like that helps so much.
Yeah, I'm excited for baseball.
I am too.
We're 23 days away, Josh. Appreciate you joining us, the host of the Sox Machine podcast. Make sure you go check out SoxMachine.com. I am a supporter at the $5 tier. Go make sure that you can see James Fegan at every single game this year covering the White Sox, the best that does it out there. Josh, thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Make sure you go support Jim, Josh, and James over at SoxMachine.com. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. for another CHGO White Sox show. We'll see you then. Goodbye.
We all silly like the mayor.